and viewers of YouTube. We have Bible trivia from the book of Genesis. And the first question we have for today is, of what especially was man not allowed to eat in the Garden of Eden?
According to Genesis chapter 2 verse 17, tree of knowledge of good and evil.
In prison, for whom did Joseph interpret dreams?
The butler and baker. Genesis chapter 40 verse 5.
The butler and the baker. Yes. And next question we have, who closed the door of Noah's ark?
God closed the door of Noah's ark. Genesis chapter 7 verse 16.
What was the name of Joseph's youngest brother?
His name was Benjamin. Genesis chapter 44 verse 12.
In which book of the Bible does the story of Noah's ark appear?
In the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 6 to 8.
What was the reason that Jacob and his family began a new life in Egypt?
Famine in Canaan. Genesis chapter 47 verse 4.
Next question we have, how was Isaac's wife chosen?
His father sent a servant back to Mesopotamia to choose a wife from his own family. Genesis chapter 24.
Question number 8 for today. The Lord said that Jacob and Esau were two what in the womb?
They were two nations in the womb. Genesis chapter 25 verse 23.
Who did Abram marry?
He married Sarai. Genesis chapter 11 verse 29.
In Egypt, what did Joseph accuse his brothers at their first meeting?
Being spies. Genesis chapter 42 verse 9.
Next question we have, what does the name Abraham mean?
And the name Abraham mean father of multitude. Genesis chapter 17 verse 5.
Last question for today. 7 fat and 17 of what type of animal appeared to Pharaoh in a dream?
Cattle or cows appeared in the dream of Pharaoh. Genesis chapter 41 verse 1 to 4.
Name the baby who was put into a basket and floated down the Nile River. Moses. We can find this at Exodus chapter 2 verse 3. Who found Moses floating in the Nile? Pharaoh's daughter. We can find this at Exodus chapter 2 verse 5. Why did Moses leave Egypt and go to Midian? He had killed an Egyptian. We can find this at Exodus chapter 2 verses 12 to 15. In what form did God first appear to Moses? Burning bush. We can find this at Exodus chapter 3 verse 2. What name for God is also the shortest sentence in the English language? I am. We can find this at Exodus chapter 3 verse 14. What happened to Moses' staff when he threw it on the ground? It turned into a snake. Exodus chapter 4 verse 3.
Dear listeners, now we'll go to questions private trivia from Bible quiz from the book of Genesis. First question we have from Genesis for today is, what was noticeable about Jacob's twin brother Esau at birth?
He was red and hairy. Genesis chapter 25 verse 25.
What did the earth look like in the beginning?
Without form and empty. Genesis chapter 1 verse 2.
Abraham's wife Sarah bore a special son. What was his name?
His name was Isaac. Genesis chapter 17 verse 19.
Which son did Jacob love more than all the others?
He loved Joseph. Genesis chapter 37 verse 3.
What tragedy did Jacob think had happened to Joseph?
An evil beast had devoured him. Genesis chapter 37 verse 33.
Which son did Jacob not send Egypt for grain during the famine?
He didn't send Benjamin. Genesis chapter 42 verse 4.
As Esau grew, he was described as a what?
He was described as a cunning hunter. Genesis chapter 25 verse 27.
Cunning hunter, yes. And the next question we have is, how many sons did Jacob or Israel have?
He had 12 sons. Genesis chapter 35 verse 22.
What was the first thing Noah built when he was out of the ark?
He built the altar. Genesis chapter 8 verse 20.
Who was Jacob's mother?
Jacob's mother was Rebekah. Genesis chapter 37 verse 11.
Who was instructed by God to leave his home and family to travel a country he did not know?
God has instructed Abraham. Genesis chapter 12 verse 1.
And we also called him Abram. And next question, or the last question from Genesis we have is, what was the name of Joseph's master in Egypt?
His name was Potiphar. Genesis chapter 37 verse 36.
Now we again go back to the Bible trivia from the book of Exodus.
What happened to Moses' hand when he put it inside his cloak at the Lord's command the first time? It got leprosy. Exodus chapter 4 verse 6. Who was Moses' spokesman? Aaron, his brother. Exodus 4:14. What did Aaron's staff that had turned into a snake do to the staffs of the Egyptian magician that had turned into snakes? Swallowed them up. We can find this at Exodus chapter 7 verse 12. Who killed the Pharaoh's firstborn son? The Lord. We can find this at Exodus chapter 12 verse 29. Who stretched out his hand over the Red Sea to divide the water? Moses. Exodus chapter 14 verse 21. What came out of the rock that Moses struck with his staff at Horeb, also known as Meribah? Water. We can find this at Exodus chapter 17 verse 6. When Joshua fought the Amalekites, as long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites would win. Who held Moses hold up his hands? Aaron and Hur. We can find this at Exodus chapter 17 verse 12.
And dear listeners, thank you for listening, and God bless. That is the end of Bible trivia for today.